off with?
Yeah, sure, I do. Actually, before I start, I wanted to make a small announcement. Let me just get my
Yeah,
act
just
together here.
yeah,
I was
absolutely.
just together. Um, Let me show my screen so that'll speed things up. Screen share. Hide the cruft on my screen that you don't want to see. Somebody asked a question last week, which led me to think, hey, I've got an answer for that, but I haven't really finished it up. And by what I mean is that I had a product that I was going to make and sell at one time, and I kind of put it off. And what it was a very small expansion or extension to the Composer scene library. And what it did was it gave you a quick way to stitch a bunch of scenes together and then make them support swiping, basically. So I read the guy's answer or question, and I said, hey, you can really do that pretty easily, but it's not exactly what you're asking. One thing I notice a lot in the forums, sidetrack here, is they'll ask a question based on their understanding and experience. And then they'll go a little bit down the road framing everything based on how they think it works. So his question was based on how he thought things worked. So I had to first tell him that's not exactly right. And then what I said was, it's pretty easy to do. You could do this with a touch input and some yada, yada, yada. And it didn't really help the guy out. So what I said finally was, instead, I'll just release this thing, and that's what I'm doing. I did it last week, and I wanted to announce it on the show. So this is out there for free. It's in my free stuff catalog of junk under the Ask Ed category, which is where I put all my forums answers. And all it is, again, is a very simple extension to the Composer library that gives you two different ways of handling swiping as a navigation technique. And that's pretty much it. So let me get rid of that and then
Excellent.
switch over to our game. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is as you, Charles, said, we're going to kind of try to change up the format a little bit here in the sense that we're going to make things smaller and more compartmentalized. And to that end, I'm going to limit what I'm talking about today because I want to keep it short and sweet. And also because I'm not quite finished with this game. So what I'd like to do is give a quick preview of everything that's in there that's actually working and sort of talk to some of the cool things to give us sort of something to look forward to because there's a lot of little tricks that I put in here that people don't usually think about that can be useful for developing their games shortcuts so they don't have to do things the hard way. And then I don't want to get too deep into this code until it's a little better polished. And so I need about a week more before everything's completely working. Having said that, game's completely playable at this point. Works with a controller. Let me bring over my to-do list so people can see what I'm missing. And let me just make this bigger so you can read it. So from last week, one of the things that we talked about is so this is a shooter, and in the shooter you have your little dude flying around, and let me unpause it, and you shoot wherever you want to. You move around, and another option is to use a mine, and you can see the symbol for the mine up here. Now I currently have one mine in my inventory. However, I do not have the button map for mines yet, so you can't actually disperse a mine. But if I had that there, I could destroy all of the enemies on the screen all at once. It's basically a kill-all feature to save yourself when you get into a serious bind. So that's one of the features that's not currently in yet. Another one is the virtual joystick. So currently I'm supporting the twin stick controller. But what I want to do for this is, in the past we've done games where the games were a little bit, not broken, but incomplete in the sense that I left some work for the student to complete, for the listeners to complete. That's a better way to put it. And this time around, what I'd really like to do is release a very complete functional game that works uniformly across OS X, Windows, as far as desktop releases go, in the simulator, and on mobile devices. And to that end, what I need to do is I need to support both twin stick and then virtual joysticks, which we talked about last time, which is basically just going to be a couple of circles on each side of the screen where you can touch them, and there'll be a little dot inside that represents the joystick itself. And so what we'll get when I put that in there is the game itself will detect if it's on desktop distribution, or if it's running in the simulator, or on a mobile. And in the case of mobile, it will turn off the code for the gamepad, and it will enable the code for the virtual joystick and a couple of other things. Besides that, and that's what this business about the platform auto sensing is, there are a couple more interface changes I need to make. For example, the option screen has, well, no options. So we need to add sound and hook that up to the option screen. Currently, it also doesn't have difficulty ramping, so it just starts off at the difficulty I've set it at manually, and it doesn't get any harder or easier. And that needs to definitely change, because we talked about last time that it starts off simple, quickly ramps up, and then when you die, it ramps back temporarily, and then ramps back up to the last difficulty very quickly, so that you get a little breather, and then you're fully engaged again. So you don't have this sense of like, oh, now I have to start over from zero, and it takes forever to get hard. No. Start easy, get hard quickly, die, get a breather, and then back to where you were. This is one of those frenetic or frantic kind of games. So that's the perfect fit, is just to keep you fully engaged and right up against the wall all the time. I talked also last week, one of the things I'm still doing in this game is experimenting with a technique that I don't personally use and don't fully subscribe to, but I've been saying that you don't need to do it for so long that I need to really go out there and prove that you don't need to do it. And that thing that I believe you don't really need to do is cache display objects. We talked about it last time, but basically the concept is you create an object, you use it, and then when you don't need it anymore, you just put it somewhere off screen. You don't destroy it, and then the next time you need an object of that same type, you look in your cache of unused objects and bring it back on screen and use it again. So you save the creation step. Personally, I think that comes out to be about a wash. So I'll do a little evaluation comparison, which will be, I think people will see that, we'll get to that point, and people are going to see that show and they say, well, Ed, I don't think your evaluation is completely correct. You could have done this. Nonetheless, what I want to do is give people a starting point where they can compare two ways of doing things, and then if they want to correct my approach, by all means they should do so. I'm not saying that I know everything. All I'm saying is in my best estimate, this is one of those things that actually costs you more effort than value, or the value that it returns. So the return on investment is not so good. But maybe I'll be wrong. We'll find out. I'm looking forward to the results of that. Finally, I need to do some balancing analysis, and so what I mean by that is currently this game is completely playable. Now, what I'm going to show you is this is the full-size version. So this is at a very basic difficulty level with a maximum number of enemies on the screen of 10. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I've set the earning a new life to, you get a new life every 1,000 points. So if we just play this for a minute more here. So when I go above 4,000 here just momentarily, I'm going to get a new ship, which you saw at the top, and then every 1,500 points I get a new mine. Now, one of the things that I want to do is examine how the size of the board, that is the size of this layout, the speed, the movement, the density of players, where they spawn, all these things can affect the difficulty of the game, and these all go towards the topic that we call balancing. So you can have a good game, but to have a great game, you have to balance it such that it is appropriately difficult at the right time and engaging all of the time. So one of the things that I really loved about the original game is they did a wonderful job of balancing the way enemies respond, where they respond, how many respond, details about how your weapons worked and got better over time or worse. And I think that it's worthwhile for us to spend maybe an episode in a future one for me just to talk about my examination of our game and things we could do to balance it or make it better. And that is pretty much it. I've got some optional things here. Currently we've got two enemy types. We've got the what is this guy called? The pinwheel, and we've got the diamond. And I think maybe one more enemy would be cool. I'm thinking either doing the snake, or I had originally said we would do the Pac-Man, which is the object that's very similar to your ship. And I haven't quite decided yet which one to do.